Buena Vista Avenue is probably one of those streets in Coorparoo that's really special, isn't it?
It always has been, and I think one of the reasons is it's just got these unbelievable city views that are with a northerly aspect, which is quite unusual in the eastern suburbs. The other thing that is really beautiful is driving down the street. It's very tree lined, and you actually drive in at street level, no steps, and greeted with the view at the rear. If you open up the front of the house, you get beautiful bay breezes right through, so that's another thing that you only know when you move into the street. And I think it's just a really easy flowing property. This is a double frontage, so we've got more light, more space, more views.
I guess the biggest thing about this house is this is the first time it's been on the market in, well, since we can actually find records for it. So in saying that, there's a lot of opportunity here, isn't there, for someone who wants to create like the ultimate family home.
It's 1,940 square metres of land. It's relatively flat, so completely usable, the whole parcel of the land. It's so quiet, it's got everything.
140 square metres with a double frontage, it leaves the design opportunity really, really open. So you can have a really wide house, or you could have a courtyard house. I mean, there's opportunity to get a tennis court and reinstate a pool and all those sorts of things. But again, with that view, you've really got an opportunity to create and design a house that will go on different angles and pick up different views, different aspects during the day.
Endless opportunities. You cannot overcapitalise in some of these prime positions. It's interesting, I think this is more depictive of a Californian bungalow style, or even like a Spanish mission.
There is the stitch work and the brickwork that is highlighted as features throughout the house. You've got the stucco finish, which is obviously where they've rendered and then finished the property off. And I mean, a lot of those features are quite nostalgic to a lot of people, and they're quite emotive, and people like to keep them. But obviously, with the way that we live today, there is a variation on how we do that and how we manipulate that to make it into a home that is befitting of, you know, a block size and a view, and ultimately the end product of what this home will be.
I've seen some amazing transformations with architects that have worked with the original bones and then done this amazing vista at the back with the views. So that would be really exciting to see what, you know, listening to people's ideas and what they're going to do here.
I've always enjoyed that sort of juxtaposition where it's a nod to where we've come from, which I think is important to retain because it just shows what has happened in the past and where we're going to. But at the same time, there is so much opportunity because, like we said, the small original value of this house can still be retained quite beautifully, and it's quite voluminous, to be honest. And then you can create something really quite special with the remainder.
You can always tell a home that's special when it just doesn't turn over, it doesn't sell, because it's been a family home that's been loved. And you see that from the street, and then you walk in, you feel that. And that feeling is hard to find.
You know what's interesting, and what we've actually lost as time goes on, is that domesticity of housing and how we live. I mean, everyone's building these houses and they build these big walls around them, and they're really cutting themselves off from that interaction with your neighbours, with the kids in the street. You arrive at this property and, I mean, the fence is only a few foot high. So it just shows that in that period of time, that nostalgia and that connectivity that you had to the street and your neighbours. I mean, great architects believe that you should actually have an obligation to connect with your surrounds. And I mean, I'm a big believer in that, and I really enjoy it. But, you know, like this house epitomizes that because you turn up and you just see it. And there would be an absolute, you can imagine talking to the owner over the fence about their garden because it encourages that kind of living. And I think they're the things that we lose and that we shouldn't be losing. And that something like this, with this sort of land, you don't need to compromise that and build this big wall. You can actually have all that, and you can have what we need today. It's a really beautiful example of something that you can create that will be a generational asset and a really special home, and to live in it beautifully.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to seeing who's going to buy the original, the Gables in Coorparoo.